Welcome to Constructive, a podcast about construction, technology, and whatever else comes up. Hope you enjoy. Well, let's just jump into it. What's up, Tyler? How you been this morning? Thanks for coming on. Let me just start. I got my first question. What trauma has caused you to just hate bad technology so much? How many times have you been burned? This is what I want to know.
Trauma?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, all right, so I'm not going to name names in any way, but when I was a detailer, I detailed steel for 10 years. And I remember the first time, like, we got this new release of a software product that was like hyped up. This is going to be game changing, all that stuff that I feel like we've all heard, only to download it and realize, wow, this thing's a load of crap. And there's so many bugs in it that like it crashes every 5 seconds. Like, and honestly, I was pretty excited to use it. Like, I was really excited to use it because some of the workflows they were talking about, I was like, oh yeah, man, this would actually help us out a ton. Like, it'll help us with shop coordination and like, you know, hey, if there's an issue here, they could just mark it in this software and it comes back to us and it just streamlines everything and unification and synergy, all the crap. Yeah, man, like we got in and it just burned me. And so that was one of those things where I realized, wow, marketing's not the reality all the time, right?
Yeah.
And so it really sucks. And it kind of takes the wind out of your sails in a way. Because you're like, man, I'm a little bit more careful now whenever I go to try something. And that's kind of like the rant that I tend to go on is like people talk about how construction's slow to adopt tech. And I like my pushback has kind of been like, dude, my dad was a general contractor. That dude knows how to spend some money on crap, on tools, on toys, all the stuff. Like, he's not scared to spend money on things that'll actually save him time, ever. And so I'm like, I'm looking at that and like, I know, like, that's a kind of a broad statement. Like, there are people that are reluctant to change and adapt to new things. I won't say that there aren't, but that's the mindset that I grew up with. Is my dad was like, if there's a better tool, I'm going to buy it because it saves us time. It saves us hassle, all of these things. And I'm like, I hear people talk in the tech industry all the time. Like, people are reluctant in the industry to adopt tech. And I'm just like, no, actually, they've just been burned by bad tech, burned by stuff like I have, and they don't want to use it anymore. They're done. Or they're just, you know, or the price is just insane too, which is also another thing that we should get into. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the background of it. It's like, I was burned by it. I hear a lot of the noise about people being reluctant, but being burned by it, like, I was reluctant after being burned by it. So
yeah, I don't think that these tech developers have bad intentions necessarily. Some might. And I think, in fact, they believe in their products too. So I don't want to discourage people because, yes, have optimism about your product. Sell it hard. Be confident in the product. Don't downplay it just because, but be realistic and then wow us, like you're saying. Like, make it undeniable. Make it so that the value in it is like, why wouldn't we spend $500 to make 10,000, you know?
right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I feel like there are a ton of people out there with good intentions. I've talked to so many of them, like so many of them. They are wanting to make the industry a better place. A lot of the tech founders too, it's really interesting. Like, a lot of them that I've talked to have come out of the industry like us, and they build a product and they want people to use it. The problem kind of ends up being, though, is that they're taking their workflow as the only example of things are supposed to go, and that can become problematic as well. I think where it becomes troublesome is where some of the people, and we're guilty of this too, like in business, we are all guilty of this, which is being kind of high on our own supply and thinking that we have all the answers instead of being really obsessive over figuring out, like, but what are the other challenges that I'm not seeing? Let me look around this corner over here and see what else I can find. We get laser focused on our own vision. I think there's some Steve Jobs-ness in it, you know, where it's like they don't know what they want until they see it, which is fair to a degree. But also, Steve was completely obsessed with an amazing user experience. like making things so seamless and like once in a generation entrepreneur. And so for me, I'm like, I'm not Steve Jobs here, man. I need other voices. I need people. This is also somebody that, said, you hire people to tell you what to do, not the other way around.
Mm.
Now, I don't know if he was very good at that, but in theory, like I think he knew that he needed other voices in his life to be able to make stuff. But we misconstrue the first statement and think, man, yeah, I should just tell people what they want, or I know better than them. And that's where people get in trouble with building products in general, building a business, right? And again, like you go that route and you burn bridges, people get irritated at you, your brand burns to the ground,
Yeah.
and you're done, ski man. You're done.
Well, that's exactly the way I wanted to open this because I'm excited about what you're kind of announcing this week, it seems. And let's talk about it. Like, what are you trying to do with Fieldproof? Tell me about how it came about. And we're alluding to it already. So,
Yeah, right. So kind of I'll skip to the end, the call to action that I would have in my plea would be to join the testing network. So high level, what we're trying to do is provide feedback to the tech companies out there. So if, Seth, you've already joined, right? So as part of the testing network, you're already in that pool of people. And if a tech company comes to Fieldproof and says, we need help with our product, we can link the product with the people that know best, right? And so what we're doing is we're just growing up this massive list of people that are like raising their hands saying, we want to test it. We want to be on the front lines. We want to give feedback. We want to tell you if it stinks. We want to do all of that to prevent bad tech from reaching the industry. And so that's kind of in a nutshell what Fieldproof is looking to do, is to just connect the tech companies with the people on the front lines getting stuff done. People in the offices in construction, people out in the field in construction, all around, all the different sub trades, all the different special, all of these things. That's who we're focused on. And so I'm pretty pumped about it because I've talked to quite a few companies, technology companies in the space that I was like, is this really a need for you? And surprisingly, it really is. They have a really hard time finding testers for their products that aren't their existing customers, right? And that's another thing too, is like, all right, you kind of want to know what the people that aren't buying your product are saying too, like, because those are probably your biggest critics at the time. The people that are already using your product and bought into it, they're kind of used to the warts and all the other things. The other people are going to be a lot more skeptical. So that's kind of what I want to do, is just bring truth to the table. And I'm trying to incentivize the people that join the network too by saying, it's number one, it's free to join. And I'm not going to spam you with emails because quite frankly, I just don't have the flipping time to.
yeah.
I'll let
Good.
you know if something comes available, and I'm advocating that whoever comes to test is getting paid for it too. We're not just going to sit here and, ask for freebies. We want you to get paid for your time. So it's a good deal for the industry, and we get paid by the tech companies. That's how it works.
Yeah. I imagine there's a lot of cool collaboration that will come out of that, where you might have construction projects that really just want to test stuff, and you can pair them up with companies who want their stuff tested. And it just seems like the perfect fit. And I also think, like you were talking about Steve Jobs, well, and it just lines up perfectly with my podcast and my whole mission, because the word came from the form of feedback that builds up as opposed to tears down, And I just think that's what we need. Both general contractors, the construction side needs it, but the tech industry needs it from us right now to say, like, we don't just want to tear down your tech. Yes, some of it sucks, but we want to build it up. We want to make it better because we care about it. It's like, I always think about the video games that I would complain about the most. They were the ones that I was playing the most and I truly loved the most, but I was just like, this video game stinks because I can't beat it or whatever. And it's because I cared that I wanted them to make it better. And I think that's how you and I feel about these tech companies. I've gotten to beta test some cool software, and both, yes, it's frustrating, but I see the potential. And then, like you said, when I get to talk to some of these people actually developing the software, they're just like feeding off every word I can give them because they need that feedback to make it better.
It's like water to them. It's like air to them. They need that stuff to survive. Like, honestly, I feel like they also struggle to understand because, again, like so many of them don't have the specific background, or they're not boots on the ground right now. They might have been 10 years ago. And so things have adapted even from 10 years ago, as we know. Like,
For sure.
they're struggling to grapple with like some of the other changes that are happening in the space right now. And so I feel like the feedback loop is the thing that is ultimately going to bring the tech and level it up again, level it up to here's the bar, man. This is what we need. Here are the workflows that we're dealing with right now. Like, it's okay if the workflows change, but you got to understand what we're adapting from to go into your new proposed workflow. That's another side of it. Is like, so many companies are coming in and they're saying, we're going to change the entire workflow. Okay, I'm not against changing a workflow. I think that it's smart to evaluate your whole workflow. However, we get in this place where we just tell them to change so fast, so fast that nobody wants to risk it. And it's a big risk to just go in a completely different direction, especially if it's untested. So for tech companies to know like what the existing workflow is, what steps we can make to eventually move people over into a completely different workflow, make it a little bit more seamless for people, and we're not going to accidentally screw up an entire project. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I feel like people care about in our industry too, and we can have a voice to it. That's mind-boggling to me, is that, you know, I feel like there are a lot of people with opinions on how tech operates. What's funny is, like, we were doing some shows, and you know, we were working with a technology company, and we would get up on stage and we'd speak, and then we'd kind of mix around and stuff like that, and we'd hear the customers saying great things to the software people, to the people in sales, to the people in marketing. Love it. It's so great. But as soon as those people went away, we started getting the straight Skippy on everything, right? Like, it's not all sunshine and roses. And so that's another thing too, is like disconnecting the feedback givers from the actual people that need the feedback is another strength here, is that, you know, you can be ruthless with me. You could tell me everything that you feel is wrong with this. I'll digest it. We'll digest it. We'll make sure that we're going to cushion the blow. We're going to get straight to the facts here. So you feel like we're getting more like harsh feedback, which I think is again, something that they actually need. But so often, like, there are people that don't care. My father would be one of them. He doesn't care what, you know, he's going to give you this thing sucks straight to your face. There are other people out there that are a little bit more how to win friends and influence people about it. And they'll be like, yeah, that's really cool, you know, and they'll move on. They won't actually give them the real story on like why they're not using it. So separating those companies from the feedback givers is a big part of this.
Yeah, I've had that exact experience too, just sitting there watching a big conference, like the biggest tech conference, and seeing all the excitement, and then going into the job trailer and hearing people talk about some of that tech that's being talked at the conference. And it's like the job trailer, they're tearing it up. They're just like, this system sucks. I can't report and they're using it as an excuse to why the project's late, you know? And sometimes they're doing that because they're part of the problem and they want to blame something else. So I'm not saying it's always fair. But yeah, I wanted to get into too, is it like, are you open to everything? Is there going to be robots being tested as well as software? And how's the hardware software mix, or how are you approaching that?
Yeah, I mean, the first focus for us is ideally just kind of in the software realm, but also, like, you know, if we get a chance to test robots, I'm sorry, man, we're going to test robots. I'm not going to sit here and say we're not. So, because I love that side of the business too. And, you know, I think that those companies especially need a lot of feedback. I've seen quite a few companies went out to several demos and saw some robots operating, and, you know, same thing, man, where it's like, oh yeah, that's really cool. And they tell that to the sales rep, but then over around the corner when we're talking, they're like, dude, that thing's really slow. It just doesn't, that takes forever. Like, did you see how they had to like go back over and do that again. Like it didn't quite get the job done. Like somebody still had to finish it. Like little conversations like that. Yes. So yeah, robotics is definitely on the radar. Software is definitely on the radar. That's a big key function for us, is because ultimately I can get into like the labor side of things if we want to, but I mean, we're going to need robotics. We gotta use it to supplement, especially while people are getting trained up. And so if we can give better feedback right now and make robots actually perform the tasks we need them to perform, and shorten the development lifecycle to something that is really usable, really incredible, help get that iPhone out in the field, so to speak, quicker, so that people can start using it and really impacting jobs. Like, yeah, I mean, we're gonna do it. So I'm not gonna sit here and say software is the only thing.
Nice.
That's a little wandering
Well,
answer. It's a yes
I'm
and
glad to hear it.
yes and yes.
I'm glad to hear it's on the table. I'm just really excited about, I think robotics have been being worked on for so long, like the hardware aspect of robotics have been worked on for so long. And I think it's the software that we need. And I think AI is really going to amplify the acceleration of robotics being able to do what we want them to do in a powerful way. But do you mind? I don't know if we can, just like, can we talk about some of your favorite tech that you're excited to get out there and start field proofing? Can we get into specifics?
Well, I mean, yeah, I can keep broad. Like, I'll say this, like, I mean, you mentioned it, AI, and I know everybody's saying AI and all that stuff, but like, dude, I mean, gosh, I'm really excited about that. And I think the biggest thing that I'm curious about is like the data sets that are being trained into AI. Like, where are we getting those? How are we leveraging the people who know how things work to feed into developing better AI systems? Something I've played with a bit is creating personas. So I like creating personas even of myself because I have ADHD. I need help here. All right. Like AI is a really good brainstorming buddy for me. And so I have trained it off of my own like conversations and transcriptions and like some of my other posts that I've written from scratch, and basically trained up GPTs into how to make better content for me. You think about the implications of doing something like that for construction. All right. How about we have a senior superintendent, somebody who's been out there for 50 years or something ridiculous like that? They exist. Like somebody out there who's got that much experience, and like being able to extract some of that knowledge and put it into AI so that other younger supers can go just engage with it and say like, how would you handle this? And like, yeah, it doesn't have to answer the whole question, but like giving them a strategic like view of things really excites me. Really, really excites me. So that's definitely one. AI, robotics, obviously we kind of talked about that. I think one of the things that I was pretty pumped about, I went out to World of Concrete. So I'll give a shout out to, they have a prototype. So it's still being worked on right now, but it's a rebar tying robot. So it literally just crawls on top of mats, and it has, it's like this gun underneath of it, and it sits there and it zip, 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 zip. It'll go across and it'll tie all your rebar for you. The limitation is that it's 8 inches on center. That's the only kind of thing that was like, okay, all right. Well, but also it was pretty fragile because it was a prototype too. So it almost needs a gel on it and things. But that makes me excited because, my brother, he tied rebar for a long time, or for a year or two. And like, I just have heard stories of, him being out here in the hot Georgia summers, tying rebar, man, getting cut by the tire wire and all the different stuff that's going on. Like, just seeing that, I'm like, that's not really much of that breaks your back for one. So if we can make it easier and like let people like run those robots, like the same guy that could have been hunched over tying all day can be up under the shade watching robots, watching 8 of them. Like, talk about extending the capabilities of our industry. Because I'm sorry, nobody wants to be hunched over all day long, or reaching up over their head all day long. That's really brutal. The other things too, like the exoskeletons and stuff. Hilti has their exo. That's pretty cool as well. They've I think they released another version of it, and so we got to see that one out at World of Concrete as well. So like, yeah, just walking around seeing some of the technology solutions like that, man, and even down to like formwork. Like we got to see some of that, just making formwork lighter. Like, you wouldn't think of that. Like, that's a technology. Like, let's make it light. Like, I mean, let's not make it 150 pounds per form. Like, let's make it 20. Oh my gosh. That just made our life way easier. So little stuff like that, man, is just super exciting. And I like, I'm under no illusions that I know all of the answers to how to make it better, but I certainly want to connect the people who do know better with these solutions so they can just rake it over the coals so we can make it better. Because that's ultimately how we have to do it, is we've got to stress test this stuff, man. We got to find the holes and give it back to the developers and say, fix it. There you go. We broke it. Fix it.
Yeah, it needs a furnace and it needs to really be molded. But you said a bunch of things I want to dig in a little bit, but Eddie is one because yeah, do you think there's any chance that that's part of what creates a guy like your brother is work like that? And do you wonder if we take away all that kind of just backbreaking suffering, make people do it over and over every day in the hot sun, like maybe somebody like Eddie doesn't exist?
Well, yeah, Eddie's a rarity for multiple reasons for sure, and he's probably over in that other room about to run in here and tell me about it. But yeah, I mean, I think that it can be good. It can be really, really good for people to go out and experience physical strain. I think it does
But
build like
maybe not their whole career, right? We
maybe
don't
not
need
their whole
to
career.
we need to let them retire and enjoy their grandkids and maybe still get to play, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that was the other thing. Like he talked about his time out in the field. Like, I mean, he worked with other guys out there that were well in their 50s, and like they'd done that their whole lives. That was their identity, is I tie rebar. Like that is what I do. And I'm the best at it, which is like really cool. If you think about like, man, you just like committed yourself to being the best at this. Like that's really cool. So like there's a part of me that's like, does this mean that craftsmanship is dying because we're like replacing it with technology, or does it mean craftsmanship is enhanced? And so like that's kind of that fun little juxtaposition I get to kind of play with, I guess, on a daily basis, is like,
Well,
you
I kind
know,
of hope we get
yeah,
to decide the answer to that
I
question,
agree.
you know?
Yeah.
I hope that we get to have influence over it. I think we should. We do. The other thing I wanted to get into is with AI, do you see a lot of limitations? Because I think people are starting finally to realize, if you're really following it, we've been on this like rocket ship of, wow, we have seems like general AI intelligence that can do 75% of everybody's job almost. It feels like that, but then I think we're also realizing that the LLM model might not be the true future of AI. I don't know. Are you tracking this and do you have feelings about where it might go?
Dude, I have a lot of feelings on where it might go. I think the agent side of it is really interesting to me right now, is like, how are we going to build out like more systems around this? This is actually some challenge that I'm taking on within Fieldproof, is to make it more of an AI first business, because I feel like it's a collection of data. We're collecting data and we need to report on that data. And so that's a thing where I feel like businesses, young businesses especially, the older ones, it's going to take a little bit of time for them to adapt, because it's steering a massive Carnival cruise liner to, it takes time. For the smaller businesses though, building agents instead of hiring other people for like data and different things, that's a really interesting area that I feel like we're going now, and I'm using it nonstop.
Yeah, same.
Recording all of, like, I mean, doing strategy and stuff too, leveraging AI to help me capture everything rather than some of it. That's another area where I'm like, I struggle with taking notes. Like I really do, but AI has been able to help me with that and not lose little things along the way. And so I feel like we're going to be a lot more productive in the long run as a result of having it. It is definitely going to shake up a lot of people's jobs though. That's the other side of it. And I mean, we're seeing that with copywriting right now, like writing show notes, little things like that. If we're looking at podcasting, because like, I mean, that's what I also do is podcast. Like, dude, you look at show notes, like we've been able to use AI and train models on like how we want to see it. So it's not just giving us the same thing every time. Like the AI sort of response was the furthermores, and due to the fact that like all that crap that gets chucked in there, like
Yeah.
we're able to train our models a little bit better and humanize them, so that like you really can't tell much of the difference between what AI has written and what our copywriter wrote that we paid $700 every 2 weeks. So like $20 versus $1,400 a month. That's how much the cost is reduced. Just that's one instance. So like it's going to shake things up. I think that's the fun part of it, is like, what's it going to shake up? Like, I feel like we kind of know some of that stuff, but I think the design world, if we're getting back into the construction side of things, AI shaking up the design world, engineering, I think is going to be another one that is going to be shaken up a lot. And, just the modeling side of things, it's going to shake up that too. Yeah, it's going to have a pretty big impact.
Think about it just with this podcast too. You are bringing up that example, and it's like, I'm tech savvy. I've done some creative media work in the past, but yeah, I don't need a team to make a podcast. And the cool thing about that, even video editing, I kind of thought like 5 years ago, if you had asked me, I would be like, creative jobs will be the last to be lost to AI. I thought they would be the human, we're always going to be the ones doing creative work. But like making a short video for a podcast, you can spend next to nothing, and AI does 75% of what you might spend a lot of money to get a human to do.
Yeah.
It's kind of a no-brainer at this point already, but I think the positive to that is it's accessible to more people. I'm making a podcast because I can, and I don't have to spend money to do it. And I want everybody else to do stuff like that. I just kind of worry, is there going to be too much? I'm already just bombarded with information. Like, do you think AI can help us sift through the bad information? I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's a big one. Is I don't know about you, but yeah, getting piles and piles of, documents and all sorts of stuff, ingesting those documents and creating summaries from that too, just to understand like where the pain points are at. And like, that's the thing that excites me, is like, I'm able to chew through so much more data so much quicker. I'll go back to that transcription thing. Like, I'm not going to sit and read a transcript. Like, I'm just not. I used to have to, where I'd be like, what did they say about this or this or this? Cause I really don't want to lose that. I can pull that thing in there into like chat or even like Claude or one of these other AI engines and say, tell me what they said about this, or what were things that they asked for? And then it'll bring stuff to me and it'll say, hey, he said that they wanted this by this date. And I was like, holy crap, he did. He really, oh man, I'm really glad I caught that, because it saved my butt. And now I can be more proactive as a result of being able to sift through that data quicker. And I think that's the biggest area. And this is just general LLMs. This is not, we're not talking about a specialized piece of AI here for construction just in general, but like for your job, you're out building stuff every day. I'm sure you get documents like piled high on your desk, so to speak. How often do you miss things? We don't like to say that but we miss stuff all the time because there's just so much information coming at us. But having the ability to distill all that information down into action items and say like, hey, you need to watch out for this. You need to watch out for that. You need to watch out for this. That's exciting to me, because proactivity is the biggest thing that makes jobs successful and makes A players on teams. We had full conversation about what makes an A player yesterday, like Eddie and I and another guy named Michael Osborne, and just great. But we were talking about what makes A teams, and honestly, one of the biggest things is just being proactive, is staying above the situation and being able to look down and say like, hey, that strategically is going to be bad for me. And like, if you learn how to poke at AI and say like, question me instead of me question it, that's a fun one. So flip it around. Instead of having this conversation where you're asking AI questions, have AI ask you questions about it, and then have it give you basically a refined thought on it and say, hey, based off of what you're saying here, you need to watch out for this and this and this. Like, that's another area. It's like, we're still learning how to use it well. And so if I can encourage anybody to do anything, it's just start playing with Claude or ChatGPT or any of these things like Gemini, all of this stuff that's available to us, and free. Learn how to prompt, learn how to use it, because dude, that's the stuff that is going to level up your career so much over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, is if you start learning how to communicate with AI and get really solid results. Honestly, as I'm hiring for Fieldproof and like bringing people on to be on staff, it's not a, oh, by the way, it's no, this is a requirement. You know, AI, you are getting better at AI every single day, because if I can have a team of just a lethal team of 5 that can do the same amount as a team of 50 without AI, heck yes, I'm going for that. Makes my business more profitable, gives us better results consistently for our clients. Like, dude, like no brainer. And for construction though, like you're dealing with so much data right now, crawl it, find the areas that are weak points, and now you can plan. And now you can even train AI models off of difficult people and create personas off of that too, which is even more and a little creepy, but kind of fun.
Yeah, I wasn't really going to reveal this to you, but I'm actually a persona of yourself that you've created.
Junk.
So
okay. Right, that's awesome.
If you've noticed, I agree with you about almost everything. That's why.
Okay. All right. Skynet, it's upon us.
Yeah. No, we haven't met in person yet. Someday we will. I do have my own, and yeah, I do think the one way we differ the most is just that, like, you're harsher on the constructive criticism than I am. I just hear you talking about bad technology all the time. I'm like,
yeah,
give them a break, Tyler. Like, they're trying. Come on.
No, I know they are. And I think that's the biggest thing. And Eddie even called me out, which really kind of sparked the whole Fieldproof idea. It's he called me out. He's like, dude, you're like dishing criticism, but you're not providing any solution here. And I was like, man, oh, I hear that. And I had to like do some, like, I love it. I do. Like, I mean, when a trusted person comes to you and gives you a gut punch like that, that's a gift, man. It's a gift. And so that's really when I started kind of spooling on stuff like this and saying like, okay, Tyler, you're talking a ton about how construction tech is lacking and all of these different things. And so kind of sent me soul searching on like, how can we help be a solution to this instead of just harping on the problem? And so,
I'm excited to be involved and just get to watch it too. I think this is great. It's a big need. Every time you tackle something, I'm like, yeah, we need that. So I think we're there with this too. I wanted to go back because what you were saying about play with prompting is so valuable. It's only been like, I didn't pick it up right away, but when I started getting addicted to having it as a collaborator was when, honestly, it was like text messages with my wife. This probably sounds really weird, but and I tell her about this, so she's gonna listen to this. Don't worry, I'm not hiding this from my wife that I do this. But sometimes I'm just like, she'll write me a paragraph or something, and I'll be like, just copy this, put it in there. What do I need to do? You know?
Yeah.
Or it's, hey, I need to be kind in this message. Can you make it nicer? Sometimes it's like, how do I convince a colleague that he should take a class or something? You know, there's some things that ChatGPT can help me think about. It's never the solution. The other point I was going to get into is like, I think I'm starting to be able to tell when people do one of 3 things. They either don't use it at all and they're writing still kind of long form cool content that I can just tell had no AI influence, or they're using it blatantly and they're just copying it in, and I'm like, come on, man. Then there's like this person collaborated with AI, and I actually can tell that they did, but it's tasteful. And I think there's something there that's kind of where we should aim, right?
That's where I'm aiming, is like, I never want the AI engine to be the thought leader. I am the thought leader. It is my assistant. It is helping me. And like an assistant, I can say, hey, can you go give me some more information on this? I want to make sure I'm not just blowing smoke here, and it does it really fast, and it is getting more accurate. There's still some iffy stuff that you need to check, but yeah, I think that's where people are kind of getting gigged right now, and we're getting better at it, is that, the copy and paste, like, oh yeah, write me a LinkedIn post about why technology is important. Wholly generic, Batman. Like, it's not going to be great. But if you start with that as just a basic, like, hey, I really like that thought. Let me pull that string a little bit. and then get it to kind of chuck out a few more ideas. And then you chuck a couple ideas at it and it chucks a couple ideas back. And it's just a back and forth. Man, I was doing that this morning. I love voice mode on Chat GPT. Like, I love it. A couple weeks ago, even I was on the road. I was driving back from Hartsfield. I was, flying in from a shoot, and I just was like, you know what? I want to think through something. And I just turned it on and I started talking to it, and it was giving me answers. It was crazy. When I was refining my sales pitch for Fieldproof, I used AI to pick me. I said, okay, I'm going to give you my elevator pitch, and I want you to act like a complete butthole to me. All right. I want you to be a jerk, and I want you to tell me all the reasons why this doesn't work. And so I was able to sit and go, okay, well, is that a valid point? Like, my gosh, man, just using it for thought, not to replace your thought, but to help you think. That's the area where I feel like there's so much value for people. And so, yeah, don't just copy it and paste it, man. That you're missing out on so much potential for yourself if you're just copying and pasting it. Like, put your thoughts into it, refine it, make it true to you. Don't just have it tell you what you are, right? Make it individual. And so it speeds up the process of brainstorming for me. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's like, yeah, that's a little bit of a dead end, but you have to be able to decide that too, and have the discernment and kind of be the curator of all the thoughts that you let out of the bag.
Nice. I got two more that are kind of bigger questions. I don't know, but they're basically just, do you have advice for owners and developers who want to do a construction project? And the other is, do you have advice for people building, or like the contractors, all the builders? But maybe start with owners. What do you think about on the owner side? What are you seeing? Do they need to be thinking about, should I be implementing an owner level technology?
Yeah. Okay, so I'll start with the high level, the most important thing, which is like, you got to build a team first before anything. Focus in on the people that are doing the process, not necessarily the process. So we got to find people that we get along with. We got to find people that we can collaborate and push on and be team players with. So if you're an owner or, a developer or whatever, I think you've probably learned this if you've done it a few times. Maybe if you're new, hey, guess what? Relationships are everything. And tech relies on human relationship for right now, whether we like it or not. Because at the end of the day, who's driving AI? It's the people, right? Who's driving all of the different project management apps or different, it's people, right? And so that's why I kind of start there. As for recommendations that I would give specifically to owners, man, again, I'm gonna harp on the AI front. AI, but also robotics, I think, is another one. How can we start leveraging these tools and maybe just try one on a project. Give it a shot. See what happens. Especially if you're like a repeat owner, or a developer. You're doing stuff over and over and over again. Come, play a little bit. There's so much so much happening in our industry right now. Now is the time. We're in a golden age, and you can be one of the first to try something that is just absolutely, truly groundbreaking. And I'm not just talking about a software product. I'm talking about, a new process. I'm talking about a new robot, a new this, a new that. Come on. We need you to be open to letting us test stuff on your products. We got to open source this thing just a little bit more than we have in the past. That's another thing too, is that I feel like owners have been very reluctant to let teams out on their job sites to, I'll say, shoot video. That's a big one, but also just let new products out there. They'll shoot it down immediately. So raise your hand if you're one of those people that's down to clown, I'll say, and say hey, I am ready to let you come here and play a bit safely. We're not going crazy, but right. Come and try some new stuff and let's evaluate it, because guess what that does for you as an owner? If you're allowing some of this innovation to take place, the schedule of your project goes, if it works, it shrinks, gets smaller. That means you move in quicker. That means it costs you less to build. So you're helping yourself later by innovating now, trying these new things. For the people in the construction industry, one, you have a voice and it's needed so desperately. There are people out there that are desperate to hear your opinions on their products and the true opinions of their products. And so for me, it's, okay, I'll be a bit self-serving. Go be a part of the network is a first step, I would say. Right. So, because that's an easy foot in the door. It's free. I'm not going to spam you. And if something comes down the pipeline that you can play with that fits your description and what and love, like, we'll be reaching out and we'll try to get you in the seat so you can give us the feedback we need to make it better and make the industry just a better place. But I think it's just having a willing heart behind this too, have a willing heart to step out there and try something new and get outside of the normal processes. That's another area too. So a lot of things I can say to them.
Yeah. My last one is just about the people. I feel like you focus on it all the time. This podcast is called Constructive, and it's mainly because I love and care about people. I want to be a better person. I want other people to grow, be better people. I think the way you do that is take constructive criticism from others. Like, the only way to grow is to learn from what you did wrong, and first you got to admit it. Do you feel like in your career, have you found that there's like a counterintuitive nature to, we think we need to be cocky and cutthroat and beat other people and competitive? Do you think there's actually, like I've learned, a counterintuitive nature to that, where it's like you can be humble and kind and it be a good business plan?
It's everything. I struggle with it too. I'm competitive. I'm really competitive. And so that's actually it's a good thing, but it can get in the way of me growing. And so I think when I first started up, I'll point to the podcast a little bit, I was a lot more like, no, it's us against the world. It's us against them. Them meaning all of the other podcasts out in the space. I'm 5.5 years into this now. And that was probably the first 6-8 months of time there. And then I started realizing, like, wow, I'm not the only voice that matters here. I need to let other people come to the table, and I need to let them speak, and I need to shut up and listen. Like, when I started our podcast, we started it up with this mindset of thinking, like, man, we had something to say to the industry. We had something to bring that was groundbreaking. It was going to change the industry and all these different things. And they just needed to work with us and all this stuff, and we'd solve all their problems. Mm-hmm. The more we talk to people, the more we realize, man, we don't know squat. We're so stupid. We're so dumb. And we only know, we know a lot about our little sector of the industry. And then when we started talking to owners, we started talking to architects and engineers and all these other people and all these different trades, we started realizing, whoa. There are a lot more issues here than we thought. There's a lot more going on. This industry is a lot more dynamic than we gave it credit for. And so at that point, we started realizing, we, meaning Eddie and I, man, we got to shut up and listen more. We've got to be able to take criticism. We have got to try to raise other voices up too, not just ours. We need to let other people who wouldn't normally have a voice or have the opportunity to have a voice. And I think that that's so important. It goes beyond that competitive nature, and staying humble and just trying to push other people into the spotlight other than yourself. One, makes you feel good. That's the best part of it. Just makes you feel good. But also, man, it's such a blessing to our industry. It's such a blessing, because like, I can speak a ton about steel construction and marketing and tech and all that stuff, and you asked me to talk about concrete. Like, World of Concrete was cool because I didn't know that much about concrete. I did and I didn't, but man, I learned so much. Yeah. But there's so many people out there that are experts in that, man, their voice matters too. We got to raise that up so much and encourage them. So it's abundance.
Our industry is full of those people who are like, have an amazing amount of knowledge of a very specific topic. I met a mold guy, like a mold expert, not too long ago. And it was just like, I'm not interested in mold personally. I hate it. I think it's horrible. I don't really want to know about it. But hearing him talk about it, I was like, this guy has studied mold, and like, he knows some things about it that made me interested. And I thought I hated and never wanted to know anything about mold. That exists across our industry. It reminds me of what you were saying earlier. Like, I hope AI can tackle that problem of like, let's keep that knowledge. Like, that guy who really knows mold, he might know stuff that a computer will never learn on its own unless we bring it from him, you know? So that's got me excited, is the ways that technology can actually like further the human goals, you know? If we can, yeah. And I think it will be more like a calculator than we realize. We were scared of the calculator making it so every math student could cheat, and that now there's not jobs for mathematicians. I think if we look back on that, we would see there's more math jobs now than there were back then before calculator.
And what's wild to me, like, I love the movie Hidden Figures. I'm a big space nerd. Like, and there's this realization in there is like those ladies that were the kind of the highlight of the movie. They were called computers. They were people, and they did all the calculations. And like those people existed before that, but now like you think through, like, okay, those people still exist. Their job looks different. It just looks different. And so for me, I'm like, I'm not scared of this, man. I'm excited by it. I think a lot of people are scared, like super scared, and they're going to, lay down in the foxhole and not get up and move and learn something new because they're scared and they don't want to lose what they have. But guess what? You're going to have to accept it. You're going to have to grow. You're going to have to learn new things. That's the fun. You get to learn. If you're uncomfortable, that's a good thing. Like it or not, you're learning. So I think we forget too. It's not that long ago that like people were called computers.
Yeah.
That seems so foreign to us now. And that was, what is that, 60-ish years ago? Yeah, I can't math, but yeah, something like that.
Beautiful. Thanks for coming on, Tyler. I know we both have stuff to do. So yeah, do you want to tell people how, other than go to fieldproof.io, right?
That's it. Yeah. Fieldproof.io for both sides. So if you are a person that's building construction tech and you need feedback, go there, book a call, and then we can chat about your needs and what you're doing. If you want to test tech though, you want to give your feedback, like we're looking for all types. Yesterday I was talking to somebody, they were like, man, we really need somebody that paints houses. I'm like, okay, yeah, sweet. Sounds good. I got a buddy for that, and so we're getting them in on the network, and like, it's going to take all types. So if you're in the industry at all, sign up, because you never know, there could be a thing that's being developed and you can help shape it. And so, and get paid to do it too. You're not just going to have to dish out freebies. So that's also a nice little incentive.
It's a really good pitch too. Sorry to keep continuing, but like, I can potentially test a piece of tech that can make my job easier and pay me more in the future, and I can also get paid to test it. So
bingo. Yeah.
And help them make it better so that it does make me more profitable,
Right. Reduces your stress. You get paid to reduce your stress. I mean, that's like the opposite of therapy, right? Like it's freaking awesome. Opposite of talk therapy. This is better than BetterHelp. No, I'm just kidding.
So there is no reason not to go on fieldproof.io and sign up. Anyway, thanks everybody. Have a great one.